One of the lasting legacies of Disney has to be the way that they've drawn from the old stories. Fairy tales and fables from the likes of Hans Christian Andersen and the brothers Grimm, all passed down to new generations through cartoons.
A lot of these stories have been heavily sanitised, however. I mean, The Little Mermaid wouldn't be such a family favourite if Ariel throws herself off into the ocean to drown and then dissolved into foam.
Yeah, or if the evil queen at the end of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was sentenced to putting on red-hot metal shoes and then dancing till she died.
Yeah.
Brothers Grimm indeed.
However, the darker side of these stories is fascinating and has led to a lot of comics putting an adult slant on the old tales. Possibly the most well-known of these is Bill Willingham's best-selling series, Fables.
For those unfamiliar with the series, Fables works on the premise that every storybook character ever written about actually exists, and that many of them have been driven from their own realities into ours by an invading army led by an evil overlord known only as the Adversary.
With hundreds of fairy tales to choose from, the Fables series is never at a loss for characters and has spawned a number of spin-offs, including Jack of Fables and, my personal favourite, Cinderella, written by Chris Robertson with art by Sean McManus. Since leaving the homelands, Cinderella has come a long way, from sweeping the hearth for her ugly sisters to becoming a world-class secret agent.
The two collections that have been released so far, Fables Are Forever and From Fabletown with Love, are a must for fans of comics like Danger Girl, full of explosive action and twisty-turny espionage, and a slew of your favourite fairy tale characters.
Another spin-off that's well worth a look is Fairest in All the Land, written by Willingham and featuring artwork by a dizzying array of talent. Someone is picking off a who's who of Fabletown's prettiest women, and, once again, it's up to Cinderella to get her hands dirty.
I'll admit that I did actually drift away from Fables a while back, but reading the Cindy stories has piqued my interest anew. She is fast becoming one of my favourite heroines in comics.
Now, from fairy tale princesses to fairy tale creatures, we come to a book that blends the genres of fantasy and post-apocalyptic drama. Hinterkind, written by Ian Edgington with art by Francesco Trifoli.
This is another series with a strong female in the lead role, which is always good to see. Prosper Monday is a young woman living in the ruins of New York City, after a disease called the Blight has reduced humanity to a few scattered outposts. This would be bad enough by itself, but the near extinction of the human race has brought back to the surface creatures long thought to be imaginary.
Elves, goblins, fairies and more who have spent thousands of years living in secret have returned to claim the world, dropping human beings to the bottom of the food chain. Literally, since apparently we taste lovely.
There's a lot of backstory to lay down, as well as a bucket load of characters that need to be introduced in this first volume, but the stage is set for a pretty epic showdown between the races. It's like Walking Dead meets Lord of the Rings.
It's certainly off to a good start, with a lot of high-concept storytelling, Gaia theory, racial prejudice and military-industrial complex all getting some focus. Also, the first book ends with what seem to be Nazi vampires flying an airship into the fray.
Which is always a good way to kick anything off.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's a couple of adult options in the fairy tale arena for you to get your teeth into. There's actually a bunch of them out there. It seems like a growth industry.
Yeah. Hey, did you know in one version of Cinderella, the ugly sister cuts off her toes to fit into the shoe, and then a bird flies in her face and pecks her eyes out so she's blind?
Yeesh.